When Kia came to India with their first product, the Seltos, it was specifically engineered for India and it actually hit the ball out of the park. It took Kia into the top few of the automotive sales charts on the back of that one product alone. It was a runaway success. Well, they launched the Carnival soon after, but now once again they have a product specifically engineered for India, the Sonet, their compact SUV. It has a tough act to follow. There are lots of expectations. In fact, when I first drove the Seltos, I was so wowed by it, I actually went out and bought one. Will this wow me as much? The Sonet exterior and interior was revealed recently and we have a walk around video. So if you want to see more details, you can watch that. But in a nutshell, this car grabs eyeballs off the bat. Detailing like the grille and the surrounding knurled chrome, the wraparound C-pillar, the 16-inch alloys, the heartbeat lamps front and rear set it apart and make it super stylish. So the interior of the Sonet feels really top-notch. All the quality feels good on the inside, whether we talk about materials or the way that the switchgear, all of it works. Soft finish for the top of the dash. Lower part has a bit of hard plastics, of course, to keep costs in check. Large AC vents laid out across the dash. Not sure I'm a fan of this knurled finish on the glossy plastic. I prefer the chrome that one has in the Seltos. Then there is this large 10.25-inch touchscreen which takes center space. In this car, you have the digital dials flanked on either side by the fuel, the temperature and the analog rev counter. Thank God it's a needle. I'm not a fan of the digital ones. Nice chunky flat bottom steering with all the controls over here. Lots and lots of storage spaces for practicality. You have cup holders. You have a slot here as well for your phone. There's another one anti-slip there where I had my phone in the first place. Pockets have 1 liter bottle spaces. They have umbrella holders as well. So they pretty much thought of everything on this inside. Nice, large, comfortable seats. The GT line has this red stitching and of course the GT line emblazoned here, which looks really nice as well. Loads of features. You have wireless charging, you have the sunroof that's electronically operated, you have ventilated seats. It's loaded. It's a long list. Let's take a look at all the features I've mentioned and what else you get with the Kia Sonet. A small note here, the base version will get 15-inch wheels, not the 16-inch that we have on our car. While it may be a compact SUV, the Sonet can pack in quite a bit of luggage, with what I think is a class-leading amount of boot space at 392 litres. So the Sonet comes with a couple of engine and gearbox options. Let me run through the list with you. It comes with a 1.2 litre petrol that has a manual transmission. You get the 1 litre turbo that comes with the new tech, the iMT, and a DCT auto. And of course, there's the 1.5 diesel that not only has a manual but a segment first torque converter auto as well. Which ones do we have here today? Well, we have the 1 litre Turbo-DCT and we have the 1.5 litre diesel auto as well. We're going to start with these two and then we're going to test a few of the rest. Well, I kicked off my drive with a 1 litre Turbo-DCT. Now, first things first, when you start off in the Sonet, one has to remember that this screen does stick out on top of the dash. So for someone like me who's probably about 5'3", 5'4", you have to get your seat height up quite high. But there's a large range of adjustments, so it works pretty well and I still have a good commanding view of the road. The Sonet also feels solidly built and all its parts work away silently, whether we talk of the engine or the suspension. Now, what's really nice about the Sonet is the way that it cocoons you on the inside. It just shuts out outside sounds like a bigger car would, so it feels very refined on the inside. You know, so when we spoke about features and we spoke about the voice assist working really well, it truly does. I mean, it does some pretty cool things. Let me show you. Hello, Kia. I'm feeling cold.
increasing temperature by 2 Celsius.
That's quite cool, isn't it? Just a little warmer in the car and now I'm comfortable. Hello Kia, roll the driver's side window down.
Opening the driver's window.
See that? It's as simple as that. Coming up to a toll, you don't have to bother, just tell Kia to do it. So you never have to take your eyes off the road for all the basic functions. It is pretty cool. Okay, so let's talk about performance now. The 3-cylinder 1-litre turbo engine is the same one we've seen in the Venue, and it makes the identical 120 HP and 172 Nm of torque. Now this 1-litre engine is really its strong point. In fact, it just doesn't feel like a 1-litre at all. It's strong, it's smooth, it's free revving, and it's got enough pep whenever you want. Now, as I said, it's made it to a 7-speed DCT. This makes the gearbox a very busy one in D mode. It runs up the gears really quickly to ensure efficiency, and so very often when you want a bigger burst of power to tuck into a traffic gap, it has to come down several gears. I think this gearbox reacts better to lighter foot, gentler inputs on the throttle. If you do stomp your foot down, it will wait on you for a bit before shifting down and getting a move on. The other thing is, you will find yourself surging ahead at times when you push for a traffic gap or get going after a speed breaker. This is because the gearbox is a bit snappy and there is spikiness in the power delivery at lower RPMs. What you can do is use the manual mode, which makes a marked difference to the performance. It feels better, shifts are smoother, and the spikiness is also flattened out. The Sonet gets up to triple-digit speeds reasonably easily. The 0 to 100 comes up in about 12.25 seconds. And I'm saying about and not exacting the figure as we didn't test it in our normal Autocar test zone. However, it does give us a reference point. Now, when you do get up to triple-digit speeds, the Sonet feels stable and planted. Now, the steering is light, but it is quick enough to react. And even around corners or at higher speeds, it gives you enough confidence. The advantage of the fact of it being on the lighter side is when you do need to make that U-turn, it is easy enough to twirl this car around. Not much effort at all. So the Sonet has various drive modes. Eco for those who want maximum efficiency, and then of course you can toggle between normal and sport, the one that I like best. It does get your throttle responses to be a little more immediate, but apart from that, it's not a whole lot different from normal. Now, while I've been driving the 1-litre with the DCT automatic, Sergis has been off driving the 1.5-litre diesel with the torque converter. Now, that's a different kind of automatic. Is it doing better than this one? Well, I'm going to hop into the back seat while you head off and hear from Sergis.
That's right, I have the diesel automatic, and I do believe I have the better gearbox. Because on the diesel automatic, well, it is a torque converter, unlike the DCT or the dual clutch transmission on the petrol, and it's a whole lot smoother as you typically expect, of course, on the torque converter, but coupled with the engine's refinement and the wonderful power delivery, which is nice and seamless all through, it's actually the better drive experience.
The diesel, of course, does come with a manual, but unlike the auto, where the engine uses a variable geometry turbo, on the manual it uses a regular turbo and puts out a lower output by about 15 horsepower and 10 Newton meters of torque.
Now, in terms of handling, yes, this one does have a slight difference to the petrol that Renuka is driving.
It is a little nose heavy, but it still feels more reassuring at high speeds.
So yeah, on the whole, the diesel auto is actually the better of the two in terms of a drive experience. Now, who would have thought that, right? But anyway, back to you, Renuka. And why don't you tell us how the rear of the car in terms of space is?
Okay, back with the mask. We've got Rahul chauffeuring me around. Thanks, Rahul.
Most welcome.
So that I get to check out the back seat of the Sonet. All set to go. Well, at the outset, while someone like me can fit in here and be quite comfortable, tall people behind other tall people definitely going to have a shortage of room. Space isn't really optimum in the back seat of the Sonet. In fact, this may be a sore point for the Sonet because in India, back seat space is often a deal breaker. Other than that, seat is comfortable, nice recline angle. The window area is nice and large, window line is low as well, so it feels quite nice and airy. And of course, you've got the bit of the sunroof at the front as well to make it open up and feel more roomy. You do have a nice slot for the phone. You have the USB charging port. Of course, the vents, which are nice and large and direct the air quite nicely. And of course, the air purifier gauge, which is at the back here. The small pocket behind the passenger side seat is nice to store your phones as well. And there are nice slots in the armrests too. So the ride quality of the Sonet is actually quite nice. It rounds off all the bumps, potholes and even really bad roads. It goes over them quite easily and well, doesn't bottom out anywhere, and lets very little filter through to the passengers. Sharper ruts do catch it out sometimes, but on the whole, it's quite a pliant and composed ride. While we did test the diesel and petrol auto first, we also went back another day to try the new transmission, the iMT as well. Okay, so if you've noticed, I'm not putting my foot out to press the clutch. Yes, today I have the 1-litre turbo with the intelligent manual transmission or the iMT. What does that mean? Well, a manual gear shift, but no need to use your left foot for the clutch. So how does it work and how different is it from the AMT? Well, in the AMT you have two sets of actuators, one that operates the clutch or engages the clutch for you and the other one that engages your gears. Here you have to manually shift the gears, but there is an actuator that will operate the clutch for you, so you don't need to use your left foot, making driving in traffic a whole lot easier. Now, I'm sure you have a whole lot of questions about how this works. What happens when you come to a signal? What happens when you come to a standstill? Well, I'm going to simulate a lot of the situations, or actually do them because I am driving in traffic, and let you know more. Okay, now let's see. I have come up to a signal. I'm going to deliberately forget to put it into neutral. Yep. Doesn't stall on me. I'm still in second gear, as you can see. Hasn't stalled. Now let's see if it starts off again in second gear. Now if I take my foot off the brake, will it creep forward? Yes, it does. So it's always better to shift into neutral when you come to a signal. And if you did hear the beep, it will prompt you to shift down if you are in a gear higher than second. Okay, so I guess the only thing for us to do is try it on a slope, which I am about to do. So we have found one here. Going uphill, stopping midway. Stopped. I'm in first gear. Foot is off. Yep, it holds for about 3 to 4 seconds. So good enough to get a start off again. It will also do that if you're in too high a gear at too low an RPM. So, this lets you have the best of both worlds between an auto and a manual. While it makes driving in traffic a lot easier, it gives you the fun of a manual where you can shift down whenever you want. Shifts are not predetermined at certain revs. So it is far more enjoyable to drive, especially when you're driving a little harder, you're cornering, you can use the gearbox to shift down as well. So yeah, I think it sort of cuts the best of both worlds. Takes a little bit of getting used to. While it's easy enough to keep your left foot down and not extend it to the clutch every time you shift, what takes a little more getting used to is when you come to a signal and you stop, you forget that it isn't really an auto, it still is a manual and you have to shift down. So yes, that will take a little getting used to, but I think after a good 5 or 10 minutes of driving, I'm pretty used to the way it functions, so it's not difficult to adapt to it at all. Before I sum it up, here are the claimed fuel economy figures for the Sonet. The Kia Sonet definitely looks stylish. Those interiors, well, they do have wow factor, make you feel like you're sitting in a car that's a segment above. Performance is good and it does come feature loaded. So it has raised the bar in terms of the compact SUV segment. It does fall short on one place, however, and that is the back seat. It is tight and there's no two ways about it. We do wish it had more backseat space, but it still doesn't take away from the fact that from behind the wheel, the Kia Sonet is a really enjoyable experience. Now, if I were to choose between the DCT and the iMT in the 1-litre turbo, I would choose the DCT because it is the one that's quicker to respond and would make your driving, especially in city conditions, a lot easier. However, the real pick of the bunch is the diesel auto, which is just brilliant on every front. Now, aside from the rear seat, it's hard to fault the Sonet. Of course, pricing will play a key part as well. And it does have wow factor. I think Kia have another winner on their hands.